Okay, I hope this is working. This is actually take two, so we'll see. Okay, let's let me show you how you can use Excel in order to do basically the problems in 2.2, 2.3, and also 2.5. So I'm going to start off by making up some X values. Boop, boop, beep, boop, beep. That works. Okay. And we're going to find the average of these X values, and we're going to make Excel do all the work. So average is mean. This is say mean equals, and in this box here, I'm going to put in the formula for the mean. Anytime you need to write a formula in Excel, you first start with an equal sign. Remember, the mean is where you add the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. So the format would be sum in the left parenthesis, and then we have to say what the numbers are, or at least where they're located. Well, notice they're located from A2 down to A6. So you can manually type A2 colon A6. Or, let me back up. After you've typed that left parenthesis, you can click and drag down from A2 to A6, and it types it for you, which is nice. Right parenthesis, but remember, we have to divide by the number of numbers, so divide by 5, and hit enter. Okay, so now that's the sum. So in your process of doing standard deviation, the next thing you have to do is find the deviations from the mean, meaning x minus the mean. So we would want to do 3 minus 5.4, 6 minus 5.4, 8 minus 5.4, and so on. Excel can do all of it. Again, we're going to make a formula, so start with equal sign. And we need to say, hey, subtract that 3 and that 5.4 in that order. Well, the 3 is in box A2, so we would say A2 minus, and now we want to subtract the 5.4. Well, the best practice for this is to say this 5.4 is not changing. The x values keep changing, but not this 5.4. Notice that's in box B8. So we would say $B, $8 to say this number doesn't change. So you need the dollar signs if the number doesn't change. And if we hit enter, notice we see 3 minus 5.4 is negative 2.4. We want the same thing to happen 4 more times. We don't need to retype all that. What we do is we can click on the box where we made that formula. See this little black box here? And your cursor changes. Click on that and drag down, and you get all of the x's minus the means, which is wonderful. So now what we have to do is we have to square these numbers, which will be our next column. I always like to put in a little column heading so I know what numbers are what. So I suggest you do the same. So to square something means to multiply it by itself. So we want b2 times b2 because we want to square it. Hit enter. So there's 2.4, negative 2.4 technically squared is 5.76. We want the same thing to occur 4 more times. Click on the box, drag down. Okay. Now in the formula, we needed the sum of these values. So if these are still highlighted as they are here, you can click on auto sum. And notice there's our sum 15.2. So remember what we did next was we found the variance, and this is where we take this sum that we just found, 15.2, and divide it by the number of data items minus 1. Well, we have 5 data items, so minus 1 would be 4. So we want to take box C7 and divide by 4. Okay? And then the last thing we do is to find the standard deviation. We take the variance and take the square root. So equals square root for Excel, SQRT. And we want to take the square root of B9. So our standard deviation is 1.95 if we round it to 2 places. You can make Excel round to 2 places automatically, but it gets too convoluted. So what we have here is perfectly fine. So then the question is, well, what if we had a frequency involved, which would be a 2.3 question. So let me make a new sheet. I had some other stuff here because, like I said, I already did all this and it didn't save. That's okay. I love doing it. Okay, making up some x values. And now we're going to make up some frequencies. All that made up, okay? So in order to find the mean, we actually need to first find the product of x times f. And we can make Excel do that. So we'll do that right now. So we want these two to be multiplied to get this box here. So notice the 4 is in box A2, the 2 is in box B2, and we should get 8, and we do. Click in that box, drag it down. And now we need the sum of these values for the numerator of the mean. Again, they're already highlighted. If they weren't highlighted, no problem. Just click and highlight again and go to auto sum. Now this number is going to be important for us. So I like to put like a little number there or a little color there so I can look at it. And then we need to divide by the sum of the frequencies. So I'm going to highlight all the F's, hit auto sum. And again, I like to add a little color so I know, hey, that number is important. So your mean will be the sum of the f times x, which is the 198, times the sum of all the f's, which is 22. So we can say this is equal to C7 divided by B7. Now we happen to get a nice whole number there. It could be the situation where you get decimals. It's fine, let Excel do it, no worries. So then the next thing we had to do was we had to do x minus the mean, just like for the previous problem. Well, your x's are right here. The mean is right down here. And that mean is not changing. It's always going to be 9. So your first x is an A2. But now we need to subtract out the box that will always be the mean, B8. Well, remember, that is $B, $8. And again, we want all the x's minus the mean, so click and drag down. Okay? Now, we need to square this. So equals, we can say D2 times D2. Click and drag down. And now we need to take the f's times the corresponding x minus the mean squared. The f is in B2, the corresponding x minus mean squared is in E2, so we'll say equals B2 times, E2. Click and drag down. But we need this sum for the numerator of the standard deviation. So I'm just going to hit auto sum. Let's highlight it. Well, that's not a pretty color. Let's go pretty color. Ooh, pretty color. No. Bam, purple. No, I don't know. Yellow. Oh my gosh, so yellow. We'll do that one. Okay. So then, remember what we do next is we divide this sum in this goldenrod. I think that's the proper color, 130, divided by the sum of the frequencies minus 1. So we can say, it's actually just jump right to the standard deviation of this part. So we need to do equal square root. Remember, all formulas in Excel need to start with an equal sign. And we need to take the sum in the goldenrod there, the 170, and that's in box F7, divided by the sum of the frequencies, that's the 22, and then minus 1. We can have Excel do this, so let's do left parenthesis B7 minus 1. One right parenthesis to close the denominator, one right parenthesis to close the square root. And notice if we round, you get a standard deviation of 2.49. Okay, so that takes care of 2.2, 2.3. 2.4 is, 2.5 also can use Excel, and you can mimic this process here of just manipulating the columns, again, starting with equal signs, and then clicking and dragging to repeat the formulas. I hope that helped.